The unexpected arrival. The stars twinkled brightly in the dark, vast expanse of space. The Eagle Armada, Earth's first fleet of intergalactic ships, glided smoothly through the unknown. Its mission was clear: explore new worlds, make contact with alien species, and bring back knowledge that could change humanity's future forever. The crew of the Eagle Armada was a mix of scientists, soldiers, and explorers, all excited for the adventure ahead. They had trained for years, prepared for the challenges of space, and now they were ready. Captain Sarah Mitchell stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the stars ahead. She had been part of the mission from the very beginning, and she was proud of how far humanity had come. The Eagle Armada was a symbol of human determination. After centuries of struggling on Earth, they had finally reached the stars. She smiled to herself as she watched the crew moving around the bridge, each one focused on their tasks. "All systems are go, Captain," Lieutenant James, the ship's navigator, reported as he studied the holographic display in front of him. "Good," Captain Mitchell replied, nodding. "Let's keep our eyes open. This is uncharted space. We don't know what we'll find out here." Suddenly, the quiet hum of the ship's engines was interrupted by a sharp beeping sound. It was coming from the ship's sensors. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Ensign Wu, the ship's science officer. Her voice was filled with a mix of curiosity and concern. "What is it?" Captain Mitchell asked, stepping toward the console. "It's a fleet of ships," Wu replied. "They're huge, and they're coming straight toward us." "Do we know who they are?" Mitchell asked, her heart racing. Could they be friendly? Or was this a dangerous encounter? Ensign Wu shook her head. "No identification. These ships are not on any of our maps. They're unlike anything we've ever seen." Captain Mitchell looked at the screen. A fleet of massive warships was heading their way. They were dark, sleek, and terrifying. The sheer size of the ships made the Eagle Armada look like tiny specks in comparison. They appeared to be part of a military force, strong, advanced, and organized. "Prepare for contact," Mitchell ordered. "All hands to stations. This could get interesting." The crew quickly moved into position, and the hum of the ship's engines grew louder as they readied themselves for whatever lay ahead. The tension in the air was palpable. The Eagle Armada was designed for exploration, not for battle. The crew had trained for diplomacy, not for war. "We've sent out a message," Wu said, "but there's no response yet." "What's their distance?" Mitchell asked, her mind working fast to think of their next steps. "They're closing in fast," Wu replied, her voice tight with worry. "They'll be within range in about 5 minutes." Mitchell paced back and forth. There wasn't much time. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her shoulders. The fate of the Eagle Armada and the future of humanity might depend on how they handled this situation. "All right, everyone. We're going to greet them with respect," Captain Mitchell said. "Let's hope we can talk first before things get ugly." The silence on the bridge was broken by the soft, rhythmic sound of the ship's communication system. A message was coming in. Mitchell leaned forward, holding her breath. The message was in a strange language, filled with clicks and harsh sounds that were completely foreign to them. The communication officer, Lieutenant Tanaka, tried to decode it, but the translation software wasn't able to handle it. "This is not like anything we've ever encountered," Tanaka said, frustration in his voice. "Do they understand us?" Captain Mitchell asked. "I'm sending a simple greeting message," Tanaka replied. "We'll see if they respond." The seconds ticked by, and the tension grew thicker. The ships were so close now. Captain Mitchell could feel her heart pounding in her chest. What was going to happen? What if they didn't want peace? What if they attacked? Then, something unexpected happened. The ships from the unknown fleet stopped. They hovered in place, as if they were waiting for something. "Captain," Wu said, her voice filled with disbelief, "I'm getting a signal. They're laughing." Captain Mitchell blinked. "Laughing? What do you mean, laughing?" "They're broadcasting a strange sound," Wu explained. It's laughter. It's not a weapon. It's just laughter." The entire crew stood in shock. Why would a fleet of warships, massive, menacing, and powerful, be laughing? Was this some kind of trick? Were they mocking them? Before anyone could react, the laughter grew louder. It echoed through the communication systems, filling the bridge with an eerie, almost unsettling sound. The humans on the Eagle Armada exchanged confused glances. Was this a game? A threat? Or something else entirely? Mitchell stood still for a moment, trying to process the situation. Her mind raced with possibilities, but nothing made sense. There was no way to predict what would happen next. And then, as the laughter echoed through the vastness of space, the captain realized something. The Empire, whoever they were, wasn't attacking. They weren't even trying to communicate in a serious way. They were laughing. What was so funny? And why did they find the humans so amusing? Mitchell didn't have the answers yet, but one thing was clear. This was not a normal first contact, and whatever happened next would change everything. The Galactic Empire's reaction. The laughter echoed through the communication systems, as if the very fabric of space itself was shaking with the sound. It was loud, infectious, and utterly confusing. The crew of the Eagle Armada sat in stunned silence, staring at their consoles, unsure of what to do next. Captain Sarah Mitchell took a deep breath, trying to maintain her composure. The situation was rapidly escalating, but there was something strange in the way the enemy fleet was acting. They had stopped, but why? And why were they laughing? "Lieutenant Tanaka," Mitchell said, her voice steady but filled with confusion, "send a message again. Let them know we come in peace, and ask them why they're laughing." Tanaka hesitated, unsure if that was a wise move, but he complied. He sent the message again, a simple greeting in the universal language of peace, but this time he added a line. "Why are you laughing?" The seconds dragged on. The Empire's ships remained still, as if waiting for something. There was no immediate response, just more laughter, louder this time, reverberating through the vastness of space. Wu, the ship's science officer, raised her hand. "Captain, I'm detecting something odd. The laughter isn't just a sound. It's resonating through their ships. It's a signal of some kind." Mitchell turned to her. "What do you mean?" I think the laughter is their form of communication," Wu explained slowly. "It's not just noise. It's being broadcast on a frequency that we've never encountered before. It's almost as if they're speaking through it." The realization hit Mitchell like a lightning bolt. The Empire was speaking to them, not with words, but with laughter. The laughter continued, and the more the humans analyzed it, the more they realized something else. The Empire's ships were not just huge, they were sophisticated in ways the humans hadn't expected. The warships themselves were using the laughter as a method to mess with their minds, to unsettle them. It wasn't a weapon, it wasn't an attack, but it was affecting the crew of the Eagle Armada in ways they hadn't anticipated. "We have to understand this," Mitchell said, her mind racing. "It's like they're mocking us, but they're not attacking. They're not even threatening." "Captain," Tanaka interrupted, "they're responding, in their own way." He turned toward Mitchell, eyes wide with confusion. "It's not just laughter anymore. The frequency is shifting. It's becoming a pattern." The crew exchanged uncertain looks. What did this pattern mean? Were they about to face an ambush? Or was there something more to this strange encounter? Then the unexpected happened. One of the massive warships from the Empire's fleet suddenly powered up its engines and started moving toward the Eagle Armada. It was a terrifying sight. The sheer size of the ship cast a shadow that seemed to cover half of the starry sky. The humans braced for the worst, preparing for any kind of sudden action. But instead of opening fire, the Empire's warship came to a sudden stop, just a few hundred meters from the Eagle Armada. The laughter, too, came to a sudden halt. For a few seconds, there was silence. Then the massive warship did something that stunned everyone on the bridge. It bowed. The entire ship tilted downward, as if it were offering a strange mechanical salute. It was a gesture unlike anything the humans had seen from any other species. Was this a sign of respect? Or was it just another bizarre way the Empire communicated? Mitchell stared at the screen, her mind racing for answers. What in the galaxy? Before she could speak, Wu spoke up again. "Captain, there's something new on the scanners. I'm picking up a new ship coming from the Empire's fleet. Smaller, faster. It's coming toward us directly." The crew braced for action, but the strange ship didn't look like a warship at all. It was sleek and streamlined, almost elegant. It moved in a way that suggested intelligence, not aggression. The humans watched as it approached, closing the distance with alarming speed. "Prepare for possible contact," Mitchell ordered, even though she wasn't sure what kind of contact they were preparing for. This wasn't an enemy they could predict. The Empire, with all its power, seemed to be playing a game with them, but for what purpose? The sleek, small ship came to a stop just beside the Eagle Armada, its engines humming quietly in the distance. And then, for the first time, the laughter stopped entirely. There was nothing. Just a deep, uneasy silence. On the bridge, Captain Mitchell felt a chill run down her spine. The silence was suffocating. Had the Empire decided to end the strange game they had been playing? Were they about to attack after all? But then the most unexpected thing of all happened. The small ship transmitted a message, a simple message, written in perfect English. "We are not your enemy. We are your laughing friends." The message flashed on the screen. "We are the Galactic Empire. You are the first humans we have ever encountered who truly get it. Congratulations, you've passed our test." The crew stared at the message, stunned. What did it mean? Who were these beings? Why had they tested humanity with laughter? Captain Mitchell's heart raced. This was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. The Galactic Empire was not what it appeared to be, and the Eagle Armada had just unwittingly stepped into the strangest first contact mission in history. The human strategy. The message from the Empire had left the entire crew of the Eagle Armada in a stunned silence. Laughing friends. Captain Sarah Mitchell read the strange words again, unsure of their meaning. How could this be real? The Empire, who had seemed so threatening at first, was now claiming to be friendly. Was this some kind of elaborate trick, or something even stranger? Lieutenant Tanaka, still processing the oddity of the situation, turned toward Mitchell. "Captain, we need to respond. But how? This isn't anything we've trained for." Mitchell nodded slowly, her mind racing. She had been preparing for a diplomatic encounter, but nothing about this encounter made sense. The Empire, with its enormous fleet, had played a game with them, testing them in ways that no human had ever expected. But why? And how could they move forward? What did the Empire really want? "We're in uncharted territory," Mitchell said, her voice calm but firm. "I don't know what they want, but we can't let their games distract us. We need to get answers." A new message appeared on the screen from the Empire's sleek ship, the one that had approached them earlier. It read, "Do not be alarmed. We are not here to harm you. We were simply curious. You see, we have studied many species, but none of them have ever made us laugh in the way you have. You are unique." The crew looked at each other, perplexed. Laughter. That was their test. Was this really how the mighty Galactic Empire communicated? Mitchell took a deep breath. "This isn't over," she muttered to herself. "There's more to this. We need to figure out what the Empire really wants and what they expect from us." As the minutes passed, the laughter that had filled the communication systems earlier began to fade. The tension in the air remained, but it was now mixed with something else, something lighter. The Empire seemed to have switched from being a direct threat to something much harder to pin down. Ensign Wu, who had been closely analyzing the Empire's signals, looked up from her console. "Captain, I think I've found something." Their laughter. "It's not just for fun. There's a pattern to it. It's like they're testing our response." Mitchell frowned. "Testing our response? But how?" "I think their strategy is to throw us off balance," Wu explained. "They've been watching us, analyzing us. They're not afraid of us. They're trying to see how we'll react to the unexpected. They want to know if we're unpredictable, if we're clever." Mitchell's eyes widened. "So they're testing us like a game." Wu nodded. "Exactly. They're seeing if we can think outside the box, if we can break the norm. They've never met a species like us. We don't fit into their usual patterns." Captain Mitchell took a moment to process this information. The Empire was used to dealing with advanced species that adhered to certain norms, species that acted predictably. But the humans, they didn't play by those rules. The Empire had no idea what to expect from them. It made them nervous, and that was a weapon in itself. "All right," Mitchell said, her voice filled with resolve. "If that's their game, then let's play." Tanaka raised an eyebrow. "You want to play along with them?" Mitchell nodded. "We'll give them something they didn't expect. We're not going to be intimidated. In fact, we're going to use their unpredictability against them." She turned to the rest of the crew. "From now on, we're going to show them that humanity isn't just some easy target. We'll play their game, but on our terms." The crew looked at one another, unsure of what exactly Mitchell meant, but they trusted her leadership. She had already proven herself in countless situations. Now they were about to take the most important step in humanity's history, and they had to do it carefully. "Tanaka, send them a message," Mitchell instructed. "Tell them we accept their test, but we're adding our own rules. Let them know we don't just follow the script. And tell them we'll be waiting for their next move, but make it clear we won't be pushed around." Tanaka, though still uneasy about the approach, did as he was told. The message was brief but firm. "We accept your challenge, Empire. But know this, we don't play by your rules. We make our own. We are ready for whatever comes next, but don't expect us to fall into your patterns. The game is on." There was a long pause as the crew awaited a response. The silence was deafening. Mitchell could feel the weight of the moment. The Empire was a huge force, intimidating and powerful. But the humans had something the Empire couldn't predict: unpredictability itself. Finally, the Empire replied. "Interesting. We were right to test you. You are different. We'll see how you handle what comes next." The laughter was gone. In its place, there was something else: curiosity, and perhaps even a hint of respect. Mitchell allowed herself a small smile. They had done it. They had taken control of the situation. They had shown the Empire that humanity wasn't just a species to be laughed at, it was a species to be reckoned with. And for the first time, she felt a sense of hope. The Eagle Armada was far from out of danger, but now they had a fighting chance. The Empire might have laughed at them, but the humans had learned something crucial. They weren't just playing in the Empire's game anymore. They were changing the rules. The first skirmish. After sending their bold message, the crew of the Eagle Armada anxiously waited for the Empire's next move. The atmosphere on the bridge was thick with uncertainty. Captain Sarah Mitchell paced back and forth, her eyes scanning the vast void of space outside the observation windows. The Empire's fleet hovered just outside their reach, silent and seemingly unmoving. "We've called their bluff," Mitchell said softly, almost to herself. "But now, we have to be ready for anything." Ensign Wu, the ship's science officer, was still analyzing the Empire's fleet. "Captain," Wu said, looking up from her console, "I've been monitoring their movements. The Empire seems to be regrouping. They're not advancing, but they're also not retreating. It's like they're waiting for something." "Waiting for what?" Mitchell asked, turning to face her. Wu hesitated before responding. "I think they're studying us. They know we're unpredictable, and they want to test our reactions. They're playing a dangerous game, Captain. Mitchell nodded. She had suspected this all along. The Empire wasn't just trying to intimidate them. They were trying to understand them. And that meant humanity's every move was being watched. Just then, Lieutenant Tanaka's voice broke through the tense silence. Captain, I'm picking up something new. A signal. It's coming from the Empire's fleet. Mitchell walked over to Tanaka's console. What kind of signal? It's not a message, Tanaka replied, his eyes widening. It's a challenge. The screen in front of them flickered, and a strange symbol appeared, a series of geometric shapes and shifting colors that made no immediate sense. The laughter from the Empire was gone, replaced by a chilling sense of calm. They're sending us a challenge. Mitchell asked, her voice cold. What does that mean? Before Tanaka could answer, the Empire's massive warships began to move. But they weren't advancing in a straight line. They spread out in an unpredictable formation, almost as if they were encircling the Eagle Armada. Mitchell's pulse quickened. They're trying to box us in. They're testing our defenses. Wu, staring at her screen, spoke up. Captain, I'm detecting movement. Small ships, fast-moving. They're breaking off from the fleet. They're coming toward us. Shields up, Mitchell ordered immediately. The crew scrambled into action, preparing for what was coming next. The Eagle Armada wasn't built for a full-scale battle. It was designed for exploration. But now, the crew had to face a new reality. They were in the midst of their first skirmish, and their survival depended on their ability to adapt. The small Empire ships closed in quickly, their sleek designs darting around the Eagle Armada like predators. Mitchell watched the tactical display, her heart racing. The Empire had always been known for its overwhelming power and precision, but these smaller ships were fast, agile, and nearly impossible to track. They're fast, Lieutenant James said, his fingers moving rapidly over the controls. We're having trouble targeting them. Captain Mitchell gritted her teeth. Don't target them yet. Let them come closer. We need to see what they're really after. Seconds later, the Empire's ships were almost upon them. Then, with startling speed, one of the smaller ships broke through the Eagle Armada's defensive perimeter and fired a blast that grazed their shields. The ship rocked violently, and alarms blared across the bridge. We've been hit, Tanaka shouted, his face pale. Shields holding. But that blast was close. Mitchell's mind raced. This wasn't just a test anymore. The Empire had made its move, and now the Eagle Armada had to respond. Return fire, Mitchell commanded, her voice sharp and decisive. But don't engage full force. We need to keep them guessing. The crew worked quickly, the ship's weapons firing in quick bursts. The smaller Empire ships scattered, narrowly dodging the blasts. It was clear the Empire wasn't trying to destroy them. They were probing for weaknesses. Captain, Wu exclaimed, her eyes glued to her console. The Empire's ships. They're pulling back. They're not pushing their attack. It's like they're testing our reactions again. Mitchell's brow furrowed. They want to see how we handle pressure. They're studying us as much as we're studying them. Suddenly, the tactical display flickered, and the image of a new ship appeared. This one was much larger than the others. It had a sleek, angular design and seemed to radiate authority. It moved toward the Eagle Armada slowly, purposefully. Is that a command ship? Lieutenant James asked, his voice tense. Mitchell's eyes narrowed. I think it is. And I think they want to speak. She stepped forward, trying to steady her breathing. This was it, the first real encounter with the Empire's command structure. There was no turning back now. Send a message, Mitchell ordered. Let them know we're ready to talk. But tell them, we're not backing down. Tanaka quickly typed out a message. We're not your prey. If you want to speak, let's speak. But know this, we will not be intimidated. The larger ship responded almost immediately. A new message appeared on the screen. this time in the form of a symbol, a complex series of shifting lines that seemed to vibrate with an unseen energy. The crew stared at it in confusion. Wu quickly analyzed it. "Captain, it's another challenge. They're not asking for peace yet. They're testing us again to see if we're willing to stand our ground." Mitchell's grip tightened on the railing. "They want to see if we'll break under pressure. They're trying to make us falter, make us act predictably. But we won't give them that satisfaction." "Shields holding steady," Tanaka said. "We're in control for now." Mitchell took one last look at the Empire's fleet. The tension was unbearable, but she knew this was just the beginning. The Empire had tested them. Now it was time for humanity to show them that they weren't a species to be underestimated. The game was far from over, and the Eagle Armada wasn't about to lose. The Empire's internal struggle. The Eagle Armada hovered in space, its crew on high alert, still reeling from the skirmish with the Empire's smaller ships. The battle had ended as quickly as it had begun, with the Empire retreating to a safe distance. There was no final shot fired, no victory declared, just silence. The tension in the air was thick, as if both sides were waiting for the other to make the next move. Captain Sarah Mitchell stood at the bridge's observation window, staring out into the vast, empty space between them and the Empire's fleet. It was a strange feeling, having just been in the heat of battle, yet now everything was eerily quiet. The Empire had tested them. Now it was clear they were waiting to see how the humans would respond. "We're not out of danger yet," Mitchell muttered, her fingers tapping against the railing. "They've learned something about us. They know we're unpredictable, and they're not used to that." Her eyes flickered toward the tactical display, where the Empire's ships sat in formation, seemingly unmoving but still present. She could feel their presence like an oppressive weight, watching, waiting. They were trying to break humanity, to see if they would crack under the pressure. But the humans weren't just fighting with weapons, they were fighting with their minds, with their unpredictability. And that was something the Empire hadn't counted on. "Captain, we're receiving the new signal." Lieutenant Tanaka's voice broke through Mitchell's thoughts. "It's coming from the Empire's command ship. They'd want to speak with us." Mitchell turned to face the screen. The image of the sleek, angular command ship appeared once again. This time, however, there was something different in its approach. It wasn't moving in the same aggressive formation. Instead, it was approaching slowly, deliberately, as if trying to convey a message of something more thoughtful. "On screen," Mitchell said, her voice steady, though she could feel the growing tension in her chest. The symbol from the Empire's ship flashed on the screen, more complex than before. It wasn't just a challenge now. It seemed almost like an invitation. The ship's communication system began to crackle, and then a voice emerged, but it wasn't the usual harsh tone of the Empire's commanders. This voice was different, calm, even curious. "Human ship Eagle Armada, we have been watching you. You are different from what we expected," the voice said, its tone measured. "You do not fear us. You do not play by the rules. We have never encountered a species like yours before." Mitchell's heart raced. This wasn't a threat. It wasn't even a challenge. This was something else entirely. "We don't fear you," Mitchell replied firmly, standing tall. "But we're not foolish enough to underestimate you either. What do you want from us?" There was a pause on the other end, and then the voice spoke again. "We did not come here to conquer you. That is not our goal. We came to test you. And you have passed, in a way. But now we find ourselves facing a dilemma. We did not anticipate your response." The words hung in the air like a heavy fog. The Empire, with its vast power and resources, was facing a dilemma. How could that be? "We have been studying your species," the voice continued, "and we believe we understood you. We believed you would act predictably, like every other species we have encountered. But you are unlike any we have faced before. You are not easily manipulated. And that is disconcerting." The crew of the Eagle Armada exchanged glances. This wasn't a simple confrontation anymore. The Empire was grappling with something they hadn't prepared for, the unpredictable nature of humanity. Mitchell stepped forward. "What do you mean by that? Why are you telling us this?" "We are the Galactic Empire," the voice replied, almost as if it were trying to convince itself. "We are the most powerful force in the galaxy. But power alone is not enough to control everything. We seek control, yes, but we also seek stability, predictability. We have always known what the outcome of a conflict will be. But now, with you, we are uncertain." Mitchell's mind raced. She had suspected it all along. The Empire's arrogance, their belief in their own superiority. But this was different. The Empire was not used to being challenged, and now they were being forced to confront their own weaknesses. "This is your problem," then Mitchell said, her voice calm yet assertive. "You rely on control and predictability to maintain power, but humans don't work that way. We fought for every inch of ground we've gained, and we're not about to play by your rules. We never have." There was a long pause on the other side, and then the voice spoke again, softer this time. Perhaps we have underestimated you. Perhaps there is something to your unpredictability." Captain Mitchell knew the game had shifted. The Empire was no longer the aggressor. It was now questioning its own philosophy. The very thing they had relied on, control, was slipping through their fingers, and they didn't know how to handle it. "The test is over then," Mitchell said, a small smile playing on her lips. "You've seen what we're capable of. Now, what's next?" For the first time, the voice from the Empire seemed unsure. "We have studied many species, but none of them have ever made us question our own beliefs. We do not know what to do with you." Mitchell's smile widened, though she knew this wasn't a victory just yet. The Empire's internal struggle was far from over. But for the first time, the Eagle Armada had gained something invaluable, the Empire's uncertainty. The seed of doubt had been planted. "We're not your enemies," Mitchell said, her voice firm. "But we're not going to bow to your power either. Humanity will decide its own future." The silence that followed spoke volumes. The Empire had no clear answer for her. The tables had turned, and it was unclear what the next move would be. But one thing was certain: the Empire's sense of control had been shaken, and humanity, for the first time, had made them question everything they thought they knew about power. A changing battlefield. The Eagle Armada hung in the void of space, an unlikely challenger facing down the might of the Galactic Empire. The earlier tension had shifted. What had once been a battle of power and force was now a battle of wills. Captain Sarah Mitchell stood at the center of the bridge, her eyes flickering between the screens, but her thoughts were elsewhere. They had gotten the Empire's attention, but at what cost? The silence after their last exchange was deafening. "Captain," Lieutenant Tanaka's voice broke the tension. "We've received a new signal from the Empire." Mitchell's gaze hardened as she turned toward the communications officer. "What is it this time?" Tanaka hesitated. "It's not a threat. It's a request. They want to speak with you directly. In person." The word hung in the air like a challenge in itself. The Empire wanted a face-to-face meeting. Mitchell wasn't sure what to make of it. The last thing she wanted was to walk into a trap, but the Empire had already made it clear that this wasn't about simple conquest. They were playing a game of perception, and humanity had already upended their expectations. A meeting could give them the upper hand, or at least buy them more time. "Is there a condition to the meeting?" Mitchell asked, her voice steady, though a sense of uncertainty lingered beneath. "Not yet," Tanaka replied. "They've asked for a neutral space, a nearby asteroid belt. They've given coordinates. They're offering a temporary ceasefire." Mitchell nodded. The situation had grown even more complex. "Set course for the coordinates. Prepare the crew, but let's be cautious. This could be a trap, or it could be an opportunity. Either way, we're not walking in blind." The Eagle Armada slowly changed course, heading toward the asteroid belt. The crew prepared for a meeting that could either resolve the tension or plunge them into a deeper conflict. The unknowns weighed heavily on Mitchell's mind, but she knew there was no turning back now. They had come too far, and too many lives depended on the choices she made in this moment. As the ship neared the coordinates, the stars around them seemed to darken, with the asteroid belt ahead a swirling sea of rocks and debris. It was a strange, disorienting sight, endless darkness broken only by the cold light of distant stars, and within that darkness, the Empire's fleet waited, still and imposing. But this time, they had stopped their advance. Their ships hovered like silent giants in the distance. Captain Mitchell stood at the head of the bridge, her face unreadable. Ready the communication channels. Keep the shields active, but at minimal power. We're not here to fight. Ensign Wu's voice was filled with uncertainty. Captain, I don't like this. It feels like they're just waiting for us to make the first move. Mitchell nodded, aware of the gravity of their position. I know, but if we're going to survive this, we need to show them we're not afraid to take control of the situation. Let's make our presence known, but in a way that doesn't escalate the tension. Suddenly, the darkness ahead of them shifted. A smaller ship emerged from the Empire's formation, its design sleek and ominous. It approached the Eagle Armada with a smooth, controlled movement, as though it were a creature that had already anticipated every step. A holographic projection flashed before them, displaying the image of the Empire's commander, a towering figure, covered in sharp metallic armor with an unreadable expression. His eyes seemed to pierce through the very fabric of space itself. This is Commander Zorath of the Galactic Empire, the figure spoke, his voice carrying a cold authority that matched his appearance. We have watched you long enough. You have proven yourselves resourceful. But now, we wish to know, what do you want from us? Mitchell's heart beat faster. This was the moment where diplomacy could tip the balance. She stood tall, forcing herself to appear calm, unshaken. She had been tested in many ways, but this was different. This wasn't just a test of their strategy. It was a test of humanity's spirit. We don't want war, Mitchell said, her voice steady. We've never wanted it, but we will not bend to your empire either. Humanity is not your subject, and we will not be dictated to by anyone, no matter how powerful. There was a pause. Zorath's eyes narrowed, but there was no anger, only calculation. He seemed to be weighing her words carefully. You speak of freedom, of choice, but you know nothing of true power. You are still young in the ways of the universe. What do you think you can achieve against an empire that has crushed every species it has encountered? Zorath's voice was almost clinical, as if discussing the extinction of a single species was nothing more than a passing detail. Mitchell took a breath. I think we can achieve more than you've ever believed possible. Your power might be vast, but power is not everything. The galaxy is full of life, and there are more ways to fight than simply through force. You've never met a species like us, and that's what terrifies you. Zorath remained silent for a moment, studying her. The coldness of his expression never wavered, but there was a flicker in his eyes, a momentary spark of something Mitchell couldn't quite identify. Finally, he spoke again, his tone softer, almost contemplative. You have no idea what you're dealing with. We are not like the others. We are an empire that stands alone at the top of the galaxy. But you may be right. You may be something more than we expected. Mitchell's grip on the railing tightened. This was it. The empire was questioning everything they had believed in. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting. And for the first time, the Eagle Armada wasn't just surviving. It was changing the way the Empire viewed the universe itself. You can continue to fight us, Mitchell said, but the more you do, the more you'll learn that we're not what you think. Humanity's strength isn't just in our weapons or our ships. It's in our ability to think differently, to act unpredictably. You can try to crush us, but we will find a way to win. And we will make sure the galaxy remembers that we stood our ground. Zorath didn't respond immediately, but Mitchell could see the shift in him. The cold, calculating menace had softened, replaced by something deeper, something that couldn't be quantified by power alone. There was respect in his gaze, though it was masked by his stoic exterior. "I will consider your words, Captain Mitchell. For now, the ceasefire remains. But be warned, we are not finished with you." The hologram flickered and vanished. The Empire's fleet remained in place, but now there was a new uncertainty in the air. They weren't just waiting anymore, they were thinking. The Empire's surrender. The silence that followed the communication with Commander Zoreth was unlike anything the crew of the Eagle Armada had ever felt. It wasn't the oppressive silence of an impending attack. It was the kind of quiet that comes after something profound has happened. Humanity had successfully shifted the balance of power, forcing the Empire to confront its own arrogance and predictability. But now, the question loomed larger than ever. What would the Empire do next? Captain Sarah Mitchell stood at the helm of the Eagle Armada, gazing out at the vast field of asteroids before her. The darkness was no longer intimidating. Now, it felt like a blank canvas, an opportunity for humanity to rewrite the rules of engagement. "Captain," Lieutenant Tanaka spoke up, breaking the tension on the bridge. "We're getting a new transmission from the Empire." Mitchell didn't need to ask for more details. She could feel the shift in the air. The Empire wasn't going to strike. Instead, something had changed. They were no longer the all-powerful force they had once believed themselves to be. Mitchell's heart beat faster as she signaled for the transmission to be brought up. The familiar image of Commander Zoreth appeared again, but this time there was something different about his posture. Gone was the cold, calculating commander who had only seen the galaxy in terms of domination. Now, Zoreth's shoulders were slumped, his posture less rigid, almost resigned. I have spoken with my superiors." Zoreth's voice echoed through the bridge. "And I regret to inform you that the Galactic Empire has come to a decision." Mitchell's breath caught in her throat. The moment of confrontation had arrived. Had humanity truly broken the Empire, or was this another test? "We have seen that you are not like the others," Zoreth continued, his tone softer than before. "You are unpredictable, yes, but there is more to you than that. You are resilient, resourceful, and you have something we do not." Mitchell's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" Zoreth met her gaze with a newfound respect, though his eyes still held the weight of an empire that had ruled the galaxy for centuries. "The Empire has always sought control. We believed that by dominating, we could bring order to the galaxy. But you have shown us that true strength does not lie in control. It lies in the ability to adapt." There was a long pause before Zoreth spoke again, his words carrying a weight that felt almost like an apology. "We underestimated you, and now we find ourselves at a crossroads. We could continue our campaign against you, but we have learned something. Perhaps there is another way." Mitchell stood in stunned silence. The words she had heard were nothing short of revolutionary. The Empire, the great force that had crushed countless species underfoot, was rethinking its strategy. "We have decided," Zoreth continued, "to offer you peace. The Empire will not pursue your destruction. Instead, we propose an alliance." Mitchell felt her heart skip a beat. This was not the outcome she had expected, an alliance with the Empire. After everything that had happened, it seemed impossible. But Zoreth's next words made it clear that this wasn't a trick. "You have shown us that there is value in unpredictability. You have shown us that strength comes from diversity, not domination. The Empire seeks to adapt. If you are willing, we would join forces. We would work together to bring peace to the galaxy, not through control, but through mutual respect." The words hung in the air, and for a moment, Mitchell was speechless. Peace, not just an end to the war, but a partnership with the very entity that had once been their greatest threat. It was the last thing she had expected. But in that moment, it felt like the only logical choice. "We're not interested in subjugation," Mitchell said carefully, her voice steady. "We've fought too hard to be free. If we're going to work together, It has to be on our terms. We won't be your subjects, Zorath. We will be equal partners." Zorath nodded, his expression serious. "Agreed. We no longer seek to control. We seek to coexist. Let the galaxy see the birth of a new alliance, one that recognizes the strength in diversity, in unpredictability." Mitchell exchanged glances with her crew. There was hesitation in their eyes. But there was something else, too: hope. They had won not through brute force, but through ingenuity and resilience. Humanity had faced the greatest empire in the galaxy, and now they were going to shape its future alongside them. "I will speak with my superiors," Zorath said, bowing slightly. "But for now, consider the war over. The Empire's forces will cease all hostilities." Mitchell nodded, still trying to process the enormity of the moment. "We'll be watching, Zorath. This isn't over, not by a long shot. We'll need to see how you honor this agreement." Zorath gave a small nod of acknowledgement. "You will. And if there is anything we can do to prove our sincerity, we will." The hologram flickered out, and the bridge was silent for a moment. Captain Mitchell slowly turned to her crew, her face unreadable. The decision was made. Peace had been offered. But it was not going to be an easy peace. There were still deep scars between humanity and the Empire, and time would tell whether this alliance would hold. But in this moment, one thing was clear: humanity had won. A few hours later, the Eagle Armada drifted back into a defensive formation, no longer preparing for a battle that was certain to come. Instead, the crew moved with cautious optimism. The war had ended, not through force, but through the strength of human spirit and the ability to outthink an empire that thought it could control everything. For the first time in history, the Galactic Empire was not the supreme power of the galaxy. The tables had turned, and humanity stood at the forefront of a new era.